Hello guys, so we are here again in this channel in which we're going to continue explaining the grammar topics from the book Grammar and Beyond. As you see, today we're getting to the fourth week in which we're going to be working on these different topics of this book. Today, we have to work on the topics that are for the Unit 24, in which we're going to talk about one of my favorite grammar or English grammar topics, that is transitive and intransitive verbs. As well, we're going to see verbs and prepositions and how they work together. This is a really interesting topic because probably we have mentioned this before in the class. I remember that in some of the classes I have mentioned it to you, but today we're going to go in detail what they are, how they work, and how they are used in different situations. Let's start with the transitive and intransitive verbs and let's see the definition of them. First, we're going to talk about the definition of what they are. First, something that I want you to notice is that the two definitions, transitive and intransitive, they have a difference. The first one is that a transitive verb needs an object. So basically, it's a kind of verb that is telling you that after it on a sentence, it is going to have an object. Remember that the only things that can be objects are nouns, gerunds, and infinitives. So keep that in mind because that is important to understand transitive verbs. In the case of intransitive verbs, they do not need an object, okay? They are the kind of verbs that after them, you probably, instead of a noun, you will have probably an adverb, an adjective, or many other things in that complement. Let's see over here some examples to exemplify better what am I trying to say. First, take a look at this one. The new employee wears perfume. For you to know how to identify a transitive or an intransitive verb is really simple. The key of everything is in the verb, okay? In the verb of the sentence. Let's look at the verb that we have over here, that is the verb wears. The new employee wears perfume. When we talk about a transitive verbs, they take objects, but how do I know that they are taking an object? Really simple. You can ask two questions, or if you can answer one of these two questions, that means that that is a transitive verb, and therefore what follows is an object of that verb. In that case, we are going to do the following. We have where, and we can answer the following questions. Where, what? What is the new employee wearing? That is the question that we are making. What is the thing that is she or he wearing? We don't know his gender, but we know that he's wearing perfume. But what is that person wearing? I just gave you the answer, perfume. So that means that that is a transitive. Why? Because perfume, as you see over here, is a noun. And what I mentioned you some minutes before is that a noun, in this case, is an object of a verb. Let's take a look at some examples with an intransitive. The new employee arrived. Question the following. With the verb arrived, in this case, we are talking about a verb in past. But can we answer the questions what or who with this verb in this form? Probably not, right? We can't. We can say, for example, he arrived, but the question that you may ask is when. Therefore, it is not a transitive verb because it's not taking an object. Another way in which you can identify is that normally transitive verbs will have the object after it. Not in all the cases, but that is the most common position they take. Therefore, intransitive doesn't have an object, transitive does have an object. Let's take a look at the structure and how they are used. Let's start with the transitive. The transitives, you see over here that they have the subject. First, this subject as any regular sentence. Then you have the verb, any verb that you can imagine. It can be a verb in first person singular, third person singular, second person plural. Any person you can imagine. And after that, we have the object, okay? The object that is answering you the question, either what or who. Then you can have it with all the subjects. This is not going to change. We are just identifying the type of verb that we have in the sentence. You see the examples, for example, over here, he or she, it, wears. In this case, we follow the same rules that we have always followed with third person singular and first person singular. So you know that you add an S, you add an ES, or you add IES when we are talking about he, she, or it. Then we have the intransitives. But you notice that in the intransitives, it doesn't have the box for object because in this case, it is optional, okay? It is not an obligation to have an object. It is something optional, something extra that you can add if you want to the sentence. I've arrived. It's the same as if I say, I've arrived to a place, okay? I've arrived home probably at 3 a.m. or I've arrived home last week for saying something. Probably we're in a long trip and then you came home. You see, we don't take an object because with this verb, we cannot answer the questions what or who. And the same happens with all the different subjects. Now let's move on to talk about the uses, and this is the most important difference between the two. The first one is the object after a transitive verb is often a noun or an object pronoun. Okay, you remember what object pronouns are, right? For example, if I tell you, he gave it to me. Me is an object pronoun because it's taking the position of an object in the sentence. If we analyzed it, it will be the position that is the object of a preposition too, but we're going to see this later on this video. First, we have the following. Just give me 1 second, so I need to check some settings. So basically, what we have over here is the following. The object after a transitive verb is often a noun or an object pronoun. I told you already about it. We have the examples. If they appear in the second, she wears perfume. What is she wearing? Perfume. There we have your object, okay? My boss doesn't like me. Who is the person that the boss doesn't like? Me in this case. So in that case, I am the object of that sentence because I can answer the question who. With the first one, I answer the question what, and the second one, the question who. Then we have an intransitive verb that does not have an object. However, it is followed by an expression of time, place, and manner. Therefore, what kind of questions are you going to answer with an intransitive verb? Simple. When, where, and probably how. That is the questions that you will answer with an intransitive verb. If you can answer those questions, then you have an intransitive, not a transitive. For example, the flight arrived at 5:30 p.m. We're talking about when this person arrived. So we're talking about the time over here. We answer the question when. Then we have how many people work at your office? How many? We're talking in this case, we're talking about manner. We're talking about how many people work at your office. We're talking about the place, the office. How many people do you have there? That is another example of an intransitive verb. She resigned unexpectedly. Unexpectedly is an adverb of manner, so that means that without anybody expecting that. And what it really means, basically, is that nobody expected that she could do such a thing. Therefore, we're talking about the way in which she did the action, but not an object of that action, okay? So that means that in here, we answer the question, how? Let's see. Some verbs can be transitive or intransitive. We're going to see some examples. Sometimes the meaning of a verb is the same. For example, he drives a truck. What is this person driving? A truck. I can answer that question. He drives badly. How is this person driving badly? We're talking about the way he does the action. Therefore, we have a verb over here that is intransitive and transitive at the same time. What is going to tell you if it is transitive or intransitive? The complement. What you have after it is going to define what kind of verb do you have over here. Because you notice in the first example, after the verb drive, you have a truck, that is a noun. And after the verb drive in the second example, you have an adverb. Therefore, we are talking about two different things completely. And over here, we're giving two different examples. Then we have the next one that is sometimes the meaning of the verb is different. Remember that in English, English is not a language that it will always be fixated on one meaning. There are some cases in which any words that you know already, they will change their meaning and they won't mean the same in one context as they will mean in another context. For example, we have the following example over here. That is, she runs a company in Phoenix. She runs what? A company. Therefore, we have a transitive verb over there. We have an object because we're talking about she managed a company. She's the one responsible of taking care of every action of the company. She can run fast. Another example of a verb that can be transitive or intransitive. But in one case, we're talking about that the meaning is managing something. And in the other case, we're talking literally about the action of running. Therefore, depending on the context, the meaning of a verb can change. How do you know that? Depending on the type of sentence that you are making. Then we have the following, that is the structure that we are going to follow with the other type of verbs that we're going to see, that are verbs plus prepositions. If you remember, we have explained this in class before, but a preposition is a particle that you can add either to a verb or you can add to a noun. Prepositions, they normally take objects. And what is the kind of object that they take? It's either a noun, okay? A noun, like a gerund, or an infinitive in some cases. And as well, prepositions can be after verbs, and they can be a complement to a verb, okay? If you remember, normally we say that when you have a preposition plus a verb, you have a transitive verb. Not in all of the cases, but we're going to see some examples. So we have verb plus subject plus preposition combinations. That means that we're going to have some interesting patterns. Some verbs are followed by an object and a prepositional phrase. I want to explain something over here, and let me show it to you. Okay, I will give you an example. I don't know if you will be able to see this right now on the screen, but let me change to the other view so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, let me see. Let me stop right now the screen sharing for you to see over here. What am I doing? Okay, so right now what I want you to focus on is the following. It says, I would love to go. I would love to go. We have the verb that is love, and then we have to go. To go is a prepositional phrase. What is a prepositional phrase? It's a phrase that starts with the verb to, okay? Now let's go back to the presentation. So, as I was telling you, sorry, there's a mistake over here. As I was telling you, what is a prepositional phrase? Basically, it's a phrase that will always start with a preposition. What kind of preposition? For example, prepositions like on, in, at, about, near, close, etc. There are many of them, but they are the most common ones. Let's take a look at some examples. She discussed what? That is the first thing that we identify, the transitive verb. She discussed what? Company policies with the new employees. She discussed what thing? Company policies. With which people? With the new employees, because they didn't know about it. But notice over here, we have with. With is a preposition, and after with, you have a noun. Normally, after a prepositional phrase, it's really common that we are always going to have a noun, like in this one. You have the new employees. All of that is one single noun, even though you have three words. Why? Because these are just distractors. But this one is the main word that we're looking for. Therefore, in this case, this is a noun. She borrowed a laptop from his co-worker. She borrowed what? A laptop. That is the object that we are talking about. Therefore, that is the, remember, transitive verb. And then we have from whom? From his co-worker. We have the preposition from, and then after that, we have the subject that is the object of that preposition. Okay? So remember, after a preposition, you normally will have another subject, because that's how prepositional phrases work. Let's move on to the uses of these kinds of prepositional phrases. First, we have the first pattern, that is verb plus subject plus about. We are going to see a series of verbs that they use the preposition about in their structure. For example, we reminded them about the meeting at 3 o'clock. We reminded. Reminding is a transitive verb, because who are you going to remind them about what? About the meeting at 3 o'clock. The meeting, we're talking about another noun. That is the object of this preposition. We have verb plus subject plus for. And in this case, we're talking about the following verbs that are ask for and thank for. That are ask me for advice. He asked me for advice. This is a special kind of verb. These are not transitive verbs. I want to clarify that. because a transitive verb may be a verb plus a preposition, but you cannot separate them, okay? In these kinds of verbs, you can split them apart. Take a look at this one. Like, he asked me for advice. He asked whom? Me. For what? For advice. Therefore, you have over here two objects. The first one is the object pronoun. The second one is the noun. He thanked me for his help. As well, the same case, the object pronoun in the middle, and then we have the complement. Then we have another verbs that use the particle or the preposition from, like these ones. Borrow from, get from, learn from, and take from. Take a look at these, since they are using the diéresis over here. So that means that, since they are using these quotation marks, that means that in this case, we're talking that something goes in the middle between those two words. She borrowed the book from me. She borrowed what? The book. From whom? From me. If I were to make it this more specific, if you remember in Spanish, you learn about direct object and an indirect object. In this case, the first thing that receives the action will be the direct object. Like, she borrowed what? The book. From whom? From me. That is your indirect object. That means that that is difference between one object and the other in these sentences. We got some good feedback from our manager. Some good feedback, all of that is a noun, okay? All of that is the object of what you got. I got, what do you get? Some good feedback. From whom? From my manager. Have you learned a lot from her? So that's a question. This is the way in which we make questions using these kinds of verbs. Have you learned what? A lot. From whom? From her. They looked information for new employees. The same example, the same pattern. We have another example that is the verb explain plus to. For example, you probably have heard that in classes I have told you, explain to me the meaning of this, okay? Or I was trying to explain to her this and this and that. Or they were trying to explain to me how the things work. Therefore, particle to plus the verb explain. And they are going to be used like this. She explained the problem to her boss. She explained what? The problem to whom? To her boss. Verb plus object plus with, we have discuss with, help with, and spend with. Like, I discussed the project with my manager. He helps her with the mail. Does she spend a lot of time with him? Okay, questions. So number 4, that is verb and preposition combinations. Some verbs are often followed by specific prepositions, like the ones that we saw. I always listen to my coworkers during meetings. Listen to, that's why we always say, I like to listen to music, even though you have two twos over there, but you cannot separate them. You cannot say, I like to listen music, okay? You like to listen to something that in this case is music. That's why they go together. And notice how natural it sounds when you say, I like to listen music. That doesn't sound well, doesn't sound natural, doesn't sound like part of the language. Then we have, don't worry about the project, I will help you. Don't worry about. Worry about is another one that go together. We have another ones like ask for, look for, think about, many others that you know. Then we have the uses for these types of prepositions as well. First, we have verbs plus about. In this case, I want you to notice the following. When you have a transitive verb, normally, if you add a preposition to that verb, you change its meaning. Over here, it doesn't happen. You may add a preposition, but the verb is not going to change at all on its meaning. The difference is going to be used because after these verbs, you're going to have a noun. And the nouns need to be the object of something grammatically. That in this case is going to be the preposition. Ask about, talk about, think about, and worry about. The one that probably you have heard me use the most, that is think about. I always tell you, I want you to think about this. Think about this situation and tell me what you come up with, etc. We have the following. The new employees ask about the company policies. Ask about what? Company policies. Why? Because here, the preposition is taking an object, that is the company policies. We talk about the problem at our meetings. Okay, we talk about what? The problem. I thought about it and I don't think it's a good idea. I thought about what? About it. And I don't think it's a good idea. Do you worry about work problems? About what? Work problems. Object over there. We have another example with the preposition at. Remember, these verbs go together. We cannot separate them from the ones, like the ones from the last section, okay? They go together always. Laugh at and look at. When we're talking about laugh at and look at, we're talking about doing these actions to a specific person or thing. For example, if I laugh at you, I'm addressing that I'm doing it to you. If I look at the ceiling like I'm doing right now, then I'm talking about the ceiling specifically. It's not the same when I say look at what? Okay? Or if I say laugh, but laugh at what? Okay? That is the reasoning behind that. We have, she's laughing at us. You see, she's laughing at somebody. She cannot be laughing at nothing. That's impossible unless you're crazy. But over here, she's laughing at somebody, at us. Could you look at this report and tell me what you think? I want you to look at something specific. Because if I tell you, I want you to look this report. Look, this report this is the report, look it. I have it over here. But if I tell you, look at it, I want you to examine it, to check it, to see if everything is correctly right on it. Verb, when you have the verb for, we have used it for apologize for, ask for, look for, and wait for. Why do you use for? Because after then you always have a noun, and they'll need this complement to be understood. Because say, imagine that I say, I apologize my behavior. You see how ambiguous that is? I apologize my behavior. It's like I'm apologizing myself and the way I behave. But if I say I apologize for my behavior, I'm telling you that I did something wrong and I want to apologize for that. If I say I ask for saying something, I ask time. I ask time. So that means that I ask a person name time about something. But in this case, if I tell you, I ask for the time, I'm telling something in a specific that I want. The same happens with look for and wait for. Okay? Apologize for my behavior, you see? Did she ask for a raise? I'm looking for my boss. Imagine that you say, I'm looking my boss. I have a question for him. In this case, the meaning will completely change because that doesn't mean that you are searching for him, but that means that you are looking at him straight to the face and never losing eye contact whatsoever. Wait for, I have been waiting for you. I have been waiting you. I have been waiting you. That sounds weird. That doesn't sound natural. That's why you need these prepositions. So let's talk about I guess they are the last ones. So we have verbs plus on, depend on, rely on, and count on. The same explanation applies over here. The company's success depends on every employee's hard work. It depends on that. Depends on what? On the employee's hard work. It relies on whom? Me for help. So remember, you will have another example of a prepositional phrase that is for help. Okay? For a preposition and help a noun. You can count on me in a crisis. No problem. You can count on me every single time that you want. Belong to, I say, does this belong to you? If I said without the particle to, I would say, does this belong you? That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound, that's sound like Spanish, but we're not learning Spanish. We're learning English, and English has different grammar compared to Spanish. What happened to Tom's boss? I haven't seen her lately. We had a sentence, what happened Tom's boss? It's like if you're talking to him and you're telling, what's up, boss? How's everything going? How's everything doing? You're not asking what happened to him, but you're asking him something. We listen to the discussion. Okay? Our boss talked to all employees on Monday. Imagine that our boss said, the sentence says, our boss talked employees on Monday. So that means that he was just saying the word employees during the whole day. That means that he was, every time that somebody was going to his office asking, boss, can I talk to you? Employee, employee, employee. Boss, can I get a raise? Employee, employee, employee. Boss, can I tell you about this problem? Employee, employee, employee. That would be the meaning in that case if we didn't have the prepositions too. Verbs with, we have agree with, argue with, and deal with. Like, no one agrees with him. But imagine no one agrees him. Like you're saying, nobody says hi to him. It's not a good idea to argue with your coworkers. It's not a good idea to argue your coworkers. That means that your argument is coworkers, not that you're arguing with them. That means discussing in an angry or unpolite way. I can deal with her, or I can deal her. So that means if I say I can deal her, that means that I can offer her a deal. But if I cannot deal with her, I'm telling that I cannot support her, that I don't understand and I don't stand her because she is too much. And we have using verb plus preposition combinations. Preposition combinations often include verbs for communicating and verbs for thinking and feeling. Keep that in mind. That is an easy way to remember why these verbs and these combinations are useful. For verbs of communicating, like saying, asking, telling, inquiring, etc. The verbs about thinking, like think about, look for, consider, etc. And feeling, like not only feeling, by experiencing, etc., etc., many others. You should ask about the new job, communication. Asking, you should ask about something, okay? Communication, therefore I use a preposition. Don't worry about it. Worry is a feeling that we all feel, but in this case it's thinking and feeling, because when we are worried, we not only feel bad, but we are also thinking about crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. We are thinking about the worst case scenario in this kind of situations. The preposition can come at the end of the information question. Like, what did you talk about? We talk about work. So you see, the preposition can come at the end in the information question. So when we talk about double H questions, the one that gives us more information, we are saying that it's sometimes possible to have the preposition at the end. What does this bag, who does this bag belong to? It belongs to me, in this case. You see as well, preposition at the end of the sentence. Some verbs can combine with one or more prepositions and the meaning may be different. Like for example, I talked to him yesterday, had a conversation with yesterday. That's the meaning of it. That's why we don't say I talked with him, because when you say I talked with him, you're saying that you and him were together talking to someone else. But if you say I talked to him, you're talking about a specific person that you were talking to. We talk about a new project. We discuss about it, okay? We discuss about it. And as you see, sometimes if you use verb plus preposition, they will change the meaning. In that case, it's really similar to phrasal verbs, as I said at the beginning, but they include on their own category. In fact, they are phrasals under phrasals of their own, but they are included on a different category in order to differentiate the different uses that they have. So that is it for this topic, okay? That is it for transitive and intransitive verbs, verbs with preposition and preposition combinations. If you have any questions, please let me know in the Google Classroom platform. I will end this video here. Remember, kids, stay safe, stay home. This will end up soon. I'm faithful that this will end up soon. Don't lose faith and try to keep motivated and positive, okay? Things will get better soon and we will see each other as soon as you can imagine, okay? So this is the explanation for the topic. Please check the video later on to learn about the use of the structure. And if you have any question, let me know later on and I will gladly answer all of them. I hope you take care and I will see you on the next video.